What's happening tonight, fans? Welcome once again to Holding Court with Todd Dagenais. Along with the coach, I'm Jeff Sharon, and what a week it was for UCF volleyball. Friday and Sunday taking on the Houston schools, the Houston Cougars and the Rice Owls, and the Knights knock them both off on the home floor, coach. And we take a look, at just the big picture from this weekend. You get 2 victories over top 60 RPI schools. What does this mean for UCF as we head into now the home stretch, the last 7 matches of the season?
Oh, it's another milestone for our program. That's something that we've never done. First of all, to beat Houston.
Yeah.
I'm quite certain that's the first time that we've been able to beat Houston since we've been in Conference USA. And so obviously it's the first time that we've been able to sweep the 2 schools. And, we've always felt like, in our minds, we feel like we're a top 50 RPI team. And I know the RPI doesn't say that right now. But we feel like we're maturing into that type of team. And I think the results from the weekend just really illustrate how far we've come since the adversity that we faced at the beginning of the conference season.
And we saw a lot of that really come through against the Houston Cougars as UCF gets the win in a 5-set thriller. Well, I say it's a 5-set thriller, but it really wasn't close in the final set, as you guys knock off Houston at 15-5 in that 5th set. And we were talking earlier, sometimes it's just how satisfying is it to see the way that match played out? We were down 2-1 at that, heading into the 4th, and then it just seemed like the light switch turned on and we could do no wrong up all the way through the end of the match.
Well, it may not have felt like a thriller to you, but it was to us. I don't know. I don't know, because I was on the edge of my seat and I wasn't even sitting down. It was one of those things where, halfway through the 4th game where it appeared like we may have a shot at getting it into the 5th, I talked to Eric Peterson on the side, and we really had a deliberation over how we wanted to set our lineup heading into that 5th set. I think common sense would say you have to bring Angelica across the front row and give her as many swings as possible, and that's the way we were leaning. But we kind of thought about matchups, and we thought about where do we want to be in the late middle of the game. And the reason is we had dropped 3 straight 5-game matches using what we thought was common sense. And we decided to change our mind a little bit, thinking about what rotation do we want to be in as we set up the end of the match. And so we actually backed it up, and we started in 1, which is a matchup that we've been starting in all match. And it just turned out that it worked out for us. Sometimes it doesn't. And you're right, I thought we executed really, really well. Sure, Houston made some mistakes. I think we forced them to make some mistakes, and they made some on their own. But the reality is I think we took 9 swings and had 8 kills. That's pretty good execution in my book. And I'm just really proud of how the team functioned in that setting. We were 0-3 in 5-game matches, and each of those 0-3s we lost 17-15, 17-15, and 19-21. So it was really a nice job of just kind of asserting ourselves in that 5th set.
And you could tell how much it meant to the players when the final ball hit the ground. They all came running out in support of each other. And I think that it's good to see that momentum carry over against Rice. Rice, we played them very tough, got the victory in Houston against them when we went out there. They come in here, they're looking to get some revenge. But we get the victory in 4 and just kept the ball rolling from there. Yeah,
I thought we'd had a little bit of a step down, as we have in Sunday matches, but it really wasn't the big one. And I thought we'd really struggled in our L2 position for the last 4 weeks. And boy, Ashley Galinos just stepped up this weekend, big time. And her confidence is growing. She's starting to feel like she belongs as a Division I volleyball player. And we've been bouncing back and forth between her and Nicole Rydell, and I think Ashley really, really stepped up. Hit well enough to beat Houston, and then just had a career match against Rice. And really, I thought she was a big difference in that match.
I mean, these were 2 critical matches because when you look at the schedule going forward, and I hate reminding you of this, but 5 of the last 7 are on the road.
Great.
And so it's going it's going to be a tough stretch, but we're going to have to earn it one way or the other. So how much more confidence do you feel that the team has in these next couple days after we completed that double against the Houston schools as we head forward into the stretch?
I think knowing that we have our L2 position capable of being a plus. Yeah, I think that does add to a lot of confidence. It really puts a lot less stress on the other 4 hitters on the floor knowing that we can set that left side anytime and get a quality swing. And so I think that does build the confidence. I think we see the finish line, we see the goal, and I think we've really scaled back on the time of our practice to try to keep our minds and our bodies fresh. And I just feel like the team sees the finish line, they see the goal. And some teams, this time of year, your brains are tired, you're academically exhausted, you're physically exhausted from a long season. And I challenged the team. I said, this is the difference. These last week, this week, and the next 2 weeks are really the difference. Everybody's going to try to play well that last weekend because that's it. There's finality.
Leave it all on the floor.
Sure, exactly. But it's the team that really can push through the pain and through the fatigue right now are the teams that find themselves finishing closer to 1 than to 12.
And right now we're a lot closer to 1 than 12, obviously, when you take a look at the standings in Conference USA. We are tied for 5th, in a 3-way tie for 5th. And you talked about it before, how everyone's going to beat up on each other in this conference. But the good part is, after this past weekend, UCF is now just 2 games out of, or excuse me, is it 1 game out of 3rd? 2 games, or 1 game out of 3rd and 2 games out of 2nd.
Right.
Which you were telling me before was right where you want to be. We got them right where we want them.
Sure, and it's so hard for me to look back and think, wow, 1 swing against Southern Miss, a couple swings against Marshall, and you could be there. But the question that we have to ask ourselves is this team improving? And I said before, we hit our stride heading into conference, and then we had a regression, and now we're finally hitting our 2nd stride. And not many teams get to hit 2 strides during the year. We're one of those teams, and I think that's a great tribute to how hard the team's working, because now, as we have goals of trying to finish in the top 3, that's a very realistic goal right now, being only 1 game out of 3rd, and we're starting to hit our stride again. So everything that we want is still out there. We just, we need some of the teams that we played to do well, so our RPI goes up. That's really what's controlling our RPI right now, is our strength of schedule. We need opponents to win. But certainly we're taking care of what we need to take care of to put ourselves in a position to be on the board on Sunday.
And it continues at the end of this week with Memphis coming up. You guys go on the road for 2 against the Tigers, 1 on Thursday, 1 on Friday night. We've talked about this before this season, that weird, back-to-back, it becomes a little bit more of a chess game, and, you can't really throw the same looks at them twice in a row. What are you guys looking to get done on the road in particular here?
All I know is Memphis is probably one of the more athletic teams that we're going to see this year. I mean, Eltrice Hawkins is just an amazing physical specimen, and I think this year she has much more around her than what she's had before. They had a freshman center last year, now it's a sophomore, and they're just getting better and better and better. And it's one of those teams that can play really, really well at home, and I think they do pose some matchup issues for us that we're going to have to be cognizant of. But we're just going to have to depend on our confidence, and we're going to have to depend on our people to go in there. We'll do what we can to slow down their top players and hopefully score enough points to beat them at their place. But it's certainly their advantage. They have us at their place on a short week, and we just have to find a way to go in there and be successful.
When we take a look at the national picture and you step out and you look at the national context, we had a big shakeup nationally. Everybody, it seems like everyone's kind of hitting the wall, kind of hitting the break in their stride, like you were talking about earlier. In the top 10, we have a new number 1. Actually, it was UCLA that moved up to 6th. So yeah, there's such a big shakeup. I can't even remember who was moving up to number 1 now. But what did you see was the trend that happened this week? Why did all these teams all of a sudden just kind of run out of gas all of a sudden?
Well, I think that's what we talked about. The mental fatigue, the academic stress, the physical fatigue really hits this time of year, and you keep winning and winning and winning, and then you have to, okay, how much do I have left in the tank to put into this week? And I think this is the time of year where a lot of freshmen that are starting in those programs will struggle a little bit, and that allows you to get caught. And I think that's probably what you're seeing nationally. Illinois, I mean, and there's some good teams beating some good teams.
Oh yeah.
I think it's not like anybody had horrible upsets.
Yeah, don't take anything away from UCLA, because they went up to Northern California. They knocked off Berkeley and Stanford.
Sure, they knock off both. And Illinois loses a tough match. Nebraska loses a tough match, and I think 5 of the top 7 maybe lost or something like that. But that's what happens this time of year. You have to go through that adversity at the beginning of November. to kind of refocus yourself, get geared, get rededicated to practice, and then you make your push into the NCAA tournament. And that's exactly what these teams are going to do. It's going to be a wake-up call for those 5, and they're going to come out a lot stronger.
All right, it's going to be a lot of fun as we move forward now. And like we said, down to the last 7 matches all of a sudden. Is it when you get to this point as a coaching staff? Do you kind of look up at the calendar and you're like, wow, where did the season go? Do you kind of get that sense at this point in the year?
Sure, I do. You know, every day, we make out our practice plans and we put the number of practice, and I think this was 55. And we know there's only about 62 or 63 practices in a year, and it's hard to believe that we're almost there already. And it has flown by. And I think that's because we still have our original goals intact.
Yeah.
And when you have your original goals intact, you're not scrambling to recreate goals, I think the year does fly by. And we're having no trouble motivating our players every day in practice. They're taking care of that on their own. And just again, we're just really proud of where they are. They've accepted the grind, the daily routine. And it is a routine. Right now, it's almost like being on autopilot. As a staff, we know exactly what we're doing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. As a team, they know exactly what they're doing each day of the week. They're in a complete routine right now. And that's what helps you get through that fatigue and mental fatigue and the pain that you go through this time of year.
And what else helps you get through that is senior leadership. And right now, Rachel Fuchsen was named the conference's setter of the week this week for her performance against Rice in Houston. As we finish up here, it's always a unique position with one senior, and we've sung her praises before on this particular webcast, but how much is she just in the zone right now, especially with her play?
It started at Southern Miss. She really, and I don't know if it was a senior that looked at the calendar and saying, oh my gosh, I only have 10 matches left. And maybe that's, I don't know exactly what it was, but she flipped a switch, and Jeff, it's amazing to watch. She's, as a leader, demanding yet encouraging. And I think a lot of the freshmen's growth has been because of how demanding Rachel is as a setter. Yet, she does all the things off the court to make it okay to do those kinds of things on the court. And she's just been doing a great job. And the offense is responding. Of course, she does it right. She praises the passers. She praises the hitters. But in reality, she's doing a great job of making average plays into really good plays.
She's always struck me as just being completely rock steady. And I think, she's completely unflappable. I think that, from my amateur observation, that's what I see with her out there. The team never gets too high, never gets too low. And she's able to get everybody, right back onto the freeway off the exit.
Sure, I think it's how she demonstrates her frustration. I mean, she gets frustrated just like anybody else does, but it's the demeanor in which she handles that frustration that has been one of her greatest assets this year. It's very calm. She gets frustrated, but she kind of internalizes most of it, to keep the confidence within the player, the hitter that she's trying to set. So yeah, it's been remarkable, and I really think, Jeff, she's going to have an opportunity, a pro career someday. Probably go over and sign a contract, play in Europe someday, and she certainly has that capability. I mean, right now, statistically, the number 3 set in the country, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that she has a shot at getting some national recognition when it's time. But again, that's down the road. Right now, her focus is squarely on Memphis, Tennessee, and trying to find a way to take that next step to helping this team be successful.
All right, and here's to that, as well as the Knights do head up to Memphis to play the Tigers in 2 straight, Thursday night and Friday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Make sure you hit up UCFathletics.com for all the latest news and information and live scores from those 2 matches, as well as the Knights head down the stretch here in the final 7 matches of the year already. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us as well. Make sure you hit up UCF Volleyball, UCF_volleyball on Twitter and also on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us here for Holding Court with Todd Dagenais. We will catch you again next week.